Is it in the keys? The fingertips that reach out to touch them? The string that begs to be bent? Or is it in the notes on a page? A foot to a pedal? The infinite space between imagination and skill? Or is it simply music?
Well, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the 13th Note Art of Mastery podcast. And today we have a panel session, and it's going to be incredible. We're going to discuss the topic of songs, songwriters. And just to start off, to kind of get the boat flowing, that, you know, songs is the way that we all humans have in the way we communicate, we document, and we archive experiences and so forth. And as technology starts to infiltrate our society, music and songs became the landscape of our culture. And today we have these experienced veterans in so many different parts of the music industry. We're going to explore the magic of songs and its relationship with the songwriter in the moments that it captured in time. So without any further ado, let me introduce Jay Barth. He is the legendary front of house engineer. His work has spanned decades of live concert memories with some of the most well-known singers and bands and songwriters. So thank you, Jay, for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Next, we have Ned Evett. Ned, of course, is a singer-songwriter with over 3 decades of writing and recording experience, and he is the master of a very unique instrument, a fretless slide glass guitar, and it makes his music his own, uniquely his own. How are you doing, Ned?
I'm doing good, Jeff. Thanks for good to be on the show.
Great having you. And then Cole Stanfield. I can't say enough about Cole. I love his voice. He is a singer-songwriter with over 25 albums in his credit, and he is a mainstay in the Austin music scene. Hi, Cole. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be invited. Thanks, Jeff.
Hey, you know, I just wanted to start in saying that during this time, with the music having changed in the landscape of the record company not running the shows anymore, we are seeing now the opportunities of not only the equipment being better for home recording and so forth, but all the tutorials and all the lessons that you can learn online. It has changed this landscape of, I would say, songwriting and so forth. So let's start with, let's go from bottom around. We'll start with Ned. Ned, share with us a little bit in regards to songwriting when you first started songwriting to the way you write songs now.
Well, pop songwriting or rock songwriting, if you will, you know, one of the big barriers to being able to do more than 1 or 2 songs at a time is just basic getting out of rhyming jail. You know, learning how to develop a lyrical style that allows you to take a G chord, a C chord, and a D chord and make something that's uniquely yours. So I'd say that's the one thing that almost everybody has to deal with. You know, it's like, I can't rhyme place and face anymore. I don't know where else to go, let alone write a bridge, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know, for me, I used to write with bands initially around 15, like you're all trying to write the music and the lyrics together. And, you know, for me, I eventually sort of turned into a solo artist, singer-songwriter, because I found it easier to both write the music and do the lyrics. And I think what a lot of young songwriters encounter these days, of course, is you have technology as like a third way of doing it.
Yeah.
You know, you can write with the band, or you can write with yourself with just you and your phone making the songs up in real time, or you can record. You can record everything into a DAW, and of course, you could record into a 4-track back in the day. But those are kind of your three options: write with other people, write with yourself, or write with yourself with technology. Of course, you can record as many parts as you want, and maybe AI is the fourth one of those three, where you just put a prompt in and it spits out a John Prine sounding song that fools everybody into thinking you're amazing. But everything, it's funny because the theme of this podcast is songs, and it really does all come back down to the song that you've written and what that can do for you as an artist, what it can do for people listening to it.
Yep.
And I guess really that hasn't changed.
Right. And let's go with follow this with Jay, because Jay inspired me to really dig about songs. Jay, you've been around a lot of great voices, and I'm sure during sound checks they're working out stuff and so forth. And according to performance and aspect of bringing a new tune out or playing the old favorite hit, tell us about what you believe makes a great song that when you hear it and you bring it out to the audience, you see everybody emotionally tied into it.
Well, I think the main thing to me is something that just kind of won't get out of your head. You can hear it once or twice and you still have it there. I mean, that's a big part of the deal.
Yeah.
There's other things that are meaningful to people. Some people get wrapped up in certain lyrics. They mean something to them. A loved one that passed, or a loved one that they're in love with, or love is a big part of the deal, I think. So, teenage angst and love and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
I spent as I was 16 years with Bob Seger, who's probably, as the folks I've worked with, though he's done other people's tunes, he wrote most of his own stuff. And he always said, I get my inspiration from something I see or hear. One day I was on Main Street. And, one day I was watching some movie and they talked about a brave stranger. And, he had a whole list of them. He rattled off like stuff just lines that he heard in a movie, right, or a sign that he saw on the side of the road that ticked him off to get, to go into it. So other folks, Cheap Trick wrote a lot of the songs, obviously.
Yeah.
Aretha, not so much, but she had great songs.
Yes.
She wrote a couple, but most of them were written for her by other folks. That's sort of a start, I guess.
Right. Yeah, it is. And, like you brought up Bob, and I was thinking about this as I was preparing for this podcast, that, I love Bob, and I love the stuff that, of course, the radio hits like, Night Moves, Hollywood Nights, all these little songs, all were so different, that the uniqueness of it, and especially like you brought up Main Street, that is so, to me, not really commercial compared to what was going on at the time, but it became commercial because it hit a nerve and really, really brought out a certain emotion. And I think Bob does that really well.
Yeah. And it was one of those Muscle Shoals things too. So, those guys added a lot to it.
Yeah. Cole, how about you? When you were writing songs from the beginning, when you were young, back in the days when we all got out of high school and so forth, right?
Yeah.
To now,
sure.
you are a tenacious writer. What I mean by that is you set schedules and you work hard at developing your craft. Talk about that.
Yeah, no, I think for me, I know I've said this on multiple podcasts, but for me, my brother introduced something to me years ago called it's like a songwriter challenge. It's called RPM Challenge, and it's to write, record, and finish an album in literally the 28 days of February.
Wow.
And what that got me past, which I think is a real thing that a lot of songwriters have a problem with, which is their internal critic, right? So your internal critic is always going to say, that song is not done. I can't let it out. It's not good enough. It's not, it's not what I want it to be. It could be better or whatever.
Right.
And that particular challenge gave me the excuse to say, you know what I created in 28 days is good enough. And I can always go back and record and redo it or rewrite it or send it to somebody, have them do it better than I could possibly do it or whatever it is. But it gets you to the point of letting go. And I think that's a real hard thing for songwriters to let go, especially because as a creative, I think you're trying to create something that is kind of soul releasing or kind of letting go of something or kind of expressive in some way. So they're all your babies, right? Every song's your baby. And, you always want to make them the best you can possibly make them. But, that release is, as a result, has turned out for so many albums for me. And I, it's funny, I always say I'm going to go back and record them and, but I always go back and listen to them and really appreciate them now. Like, go back and listen to what I wrote 10 years ago. And I go, wow, that was me when I was first trying to figure out how to play a grand piano, because there just happened to be one at work that happened to be tuned that day. And I, was fiddling around the keys and came up with a little motif of some sort, So I think, I started writing with bands, around the age of 14. I was lucky enough to be in one of those original bands. At 14, we did a few covers, but we really enjoyed writing our own material. And so at that age, luckily I come from a father who's a poet, so had a little bit of that influence in me. I was able to just put lyrics to songs that we were writing. So started off with a Porta 1, and we figured out how to do a 4-track recording, and ever since then the equipment's just gotten a little bit better. And like you said, Ned, the tools that you use throughout the years have just gotten better and better. All the way through to AI. I look at AI as a tool. It's not an excuse to not write your songs. It's just a tool to get you some ideas. And so for me, all those tools, as they've gotten better, my songs have gotten better. And what a beautiful way to grow as a songwriter, just with using those tools and still able to kind of let out your creativity and just continue to do what you love.
Right. Do you collaborate with other writers, Cole?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do a lot. In fact, I was just thinking about before this podcast, during the pandemic, I reached out to a lot of friends on Facebook that some of them were songwriters and some of them weren't. Some of them were just, poets or something like that. Yeah. And I reached out to a lot of them and I said, hey, let's try something. You send me something. It could be something you recorded on your phone, and I'll take it and try to turn a song, make a song out of it and send it back to you. No charge, no nothing. Let's just enjoy what it is that we're doing, and we can still get together and do some stuff. And some of that stuff was absolutely fantastic. It's refreshing sometimes to work with somebody that doesn't have a lot of knowledge or even a lot of experience. Right. They're just going to do something. And then with the tools I have, I can take it and chop it up, or I can take it and add vocals over it. It's really refreshing sometimes to get that fresh perspective.
Oh, I bet. Ned? Yeah. I know you write with partners.
Well, I do. Like in what Cole is saying, it's like you become a sort of a producing songwriter. Mm-hmm. Like when you work with people, like, oh, it's all right. I can record this, and you can take it from demo to finished recording. Maybe your writing partner does not have those skills, but like in Cole's case, my case, and Jay, I don't know if you do any studio engineering. You probably, but being able to fulfill that role is really rewarding. There's some of the songwriting talent out there. It's not that they're savants, but they can write a really good song, but they don't know anything about recording it. That's always kind of refreshing to me. It's like you know what I mean? Like when you make the recording, where all the bones are buried, where all the edits are, and but working with somebody that brings the song in, it's really fun. I find. I did a record with a Los Angeles band called So Long Cowboy, and their songwriter is Randy Redroad, who's from Texas originally, and he's a screenwriter. He wrote for the Outer Range show on Amazon with Josh Brolin. He wrote a couple of episodes for that. He's done his own films. He's an amazing songwriter, and again, it's fun to have the skills to record, although you do have to kind of, in this day of digital recording, you have to make sure that you have some kind of a deadline, like something that, so you don't sit and work on one album for 3 years. And that also affects a lot of songwriters. You hold on to work for so long that it starts to get worse over time and not better.
Agreed.
You know, I made probably the best record I ever made in the studio, which my is called Treehouse, that I made with Adrian Ballou, who's producing it. And we made it in 9 days. It's like a 16-song record. And without his guidance, basically a good producer tells you it's not getting any better. and this, you know, songs are interesting that way when you get them in the studio. Like, some work really well live in the studio, like the band gets together and you play it and it's pretty much all there. Some are more like building a ship on a bottle. But some of the shows that Jay is, like some of the bands Jay has worked with, that's just like so interesting, because those bands, you know, created the sort of the gold standard for like a whole generation of 2 generations, 3 generations of musicians after them.
It's funny you mentioned some of that, Ned. Some of Seeger's songs were they used mix number 3 out of 96 or something.
So true.
Wow. Yeah,
and
that was back in the days. Well, I was going to say there was times back in the days where everybody was turning out 2 records a year, and they were hitting the road right after that, because it was like less than 40 minutes worth of music on an album, right? So that gave the opportunity. I think that changes the landscape of the fan base when you can offer that many songs, opposed to giving one song out 72 minutes and then that sucker sits on the market for 2 years. You know, and I think it's harder to keep the flame alive on that than it is if you were doing it every 6 months. What do you think, Jay?
Well, I know the Kiss guys really rolled them out when I was back there.
Yeah.
You know, they were. I don't know anybody that worked harder for a couple of years than those guys. You know, like them or love them or hate them or leave them or whatever, but they really worked. That's, you know, they went from the road to the studio and, you know, putting that stupid makeup on every night and jumping around in those shoes. It was a lot of work.
Hey, got them the Kennedy Center Award, right? I mean, you got to hand it to them. You know, my dad told me that when he saw The Land of Hype on ABC in around 78, he says that stuff is never going to last. They're not Elvis. Yeah. And, you know, 50 years later, my dad's not here anymore, but this is. Go figure that, right?
I never thought, I mean, if you'd have told me in 75 or 6 that they'd be still playing in 2020 or whatever, I'd have called the guys in the white suits to come take you away.
Right.
But here we are.
Have you ever seen guys, whether it be Kiss or Cheap Trick, where they're working out something at sound check, and then next thing you know, that sucker got stuck in the list. And now they're performing it, and people are getting off to it.
Yeah, a few times I think. Particularly, the Tricksters would do that quite a bit, actually. Bob, not so much. He was kind of quiet in the background about it.
Right.
But Cheap Trick would do stuff like that quite often.
Yeah. Cheap Trick always gave me the impression. I've seen them quite a few times between 79 to 81. And I think that was a really hot spot for their career at that time, right before the Flame and MTV took off. So it was really the Budokan Dream Police period. Yeah. And I've noticed at that time, the audience was really just full board, like how Kiss was in late 75, 76, because that particular record just lit a fire on there. So, Jay, what other records have you seen of all the decades you worked with that it sparked something like that with a song or a sequence on the album that made everybody goes, oh my God, this is great? Then I'll start with one, Boston debut album.
Yeah.
Right. That I think changed the scape of it in regards to how that particular sound went.
Well, and one that, one of the fellas asked if I worked in the studio. I did do a little bit of studio work and producing back in the 80s. I had a band called Baruga Bandit, and they were managed by Punch Andrews, the same guy that does Bob Seger, and we did a record for Capitol Records, and we got the opening act slot on the very first Dire Straits tour in America.
Wow.
Wow,
So,
that's awesome.
I mean that was that was a record that's kind of like that,
Yeah.
a record debut that was pretty huge, so.
Right. Cole, you have a memory that the record came out and just blew your mind?
I mean, for me, it was the beginning of everything, right? It was like listening to Kansas from start to finish. I was listening to those epic albums. It was listening to The Wall. It was listening to those huge albums that just told the story that you just wanted to melt into that, that image it was creating in your mind.
Right. And
yeah.
Would you consider progressive? Right.
I would say Kansas really was in the beginning. It's definitely, it was what we as musicians listened to learn our skill. It's what we were it was what we were trying to copy. It was what we were trying to be able to do. So I think for, especially the group of musicians that I was playing with, I was 12 years old and trying to play Trees and Rush and Kansas. And, at 12 years old, there was no YouTube. You had to figure it out by ear. So you literally, and then I only had an 8-track too. So you had to hit that button and you had to listen all the way through. You couldn't go back. You had to wait for 3 more songs to go back and listen to it again. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Good memories.
So that was my dad's 8-track. I remember that. That was one of my biggest memories. Was really, I think it was Boston and it was Kansas and I can't remember the third one, but those were the beginnings.
Yeah. Ned, how about you?
I was reading. Well, I read an article once about when's the last time that happened, and a lot of people agree that Radiohead's OK Computer that came out like in 97 or 98 was the last time an album kind of got that type of traction. Where the band was out doing it live and it sort of changed the game a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think about that statement, that article, and I think there's some validity to where things are now because, we had that progression in the 70s from Bob Seger to Queen to Van Halen to Dire Straits and many other bands, of course, but they really did arrive and became part of the sort of popular consciousness, not just the bands, but their albums and their music, their songs.
Yeah.
And things are just in such a weird space now with streaming. And of course, the business has completely changed. But I see a lot of young bands trying to recreate like the Zeppelin thing or the Pink Floyd thing or whatever, they're trying to, and they're young kids and they're trying to recreate that magic. Maybe that'll lead somewhere. I don't know. But, yeah, right now it's very interesting being a performing, working songwriter where you're out there on the road. This summer I was out with Joe Satriani and Steve Vai as their opening act in Europe, and I got to play some venues I've always wanted to play, like the Hammersmith Odeon, stuff like that, where Dire Straits recorded Alchemy, that live record of theirs. And, it's kind of like that sort of thing. Like there's the K-shaped economy. I think the music business is like a double L shaped economy. We have all these legacy acts, including Kiss, bands that are still on the road that can fill a stadium, Chili Peppers, blah, blah, blah. And then there's not a lot in the middle. And then there's kind of everybody else like playing smaller and smaller venues. But the song thing is interesting because it still does really come down to that tune that connects with everybody.
Always. Yeah, I agree. It's a matter of fact, my inception of a teen going into working into club band, the biggest advice I was given from a guitar player, a band leader who was working the circuit at the time. Cole, you may know him. His name is Ro Miranda. So Ro was a guy who was making good bank at a teenage years with his band. And he said to me, he goes, well, if you want to do this business correct, you got to do several things. You need to write. Number 2 is you need to sing. Don't just think you're going to go up there and finger tap your way into stardom because that ain't going to happen. And I thought to myself, and I go, really? With this world going Eddie Van Halen crazy, I have to do other things? And as I got into this career deeper and deeper, I couldn't be more open to what that suggestion was because that truly was the case.
Eddie was so much about the song too. Like Eddie Van Halen's rhythm parts and his songwriting were just, that's, his pyrotechnics also were filling butts and seats, but those songs,
right.
He was the whole package, as they say, right? But
he was the guy that all his riffs sounded simple until you tried to play them.
That's right.
Dire Straits, of course, Mark's model kind of pulls more from that J.J. Cale, Hank Marvin thing, but same thing. Like people want to hear that last arpeggio on Sultans of Swing, but they want to hear, Romeo and Juliet and Six Blade Knife and all of those songs. They want those songs. That's crazy.
Right, Jay.
I know the stuff. I don't know. I shouldn't be too critical, but
you've earned it.
Some of the stuff these people pay how many thousands of dollars for a Taylor Swift ticket, and I couldn't hum a song of hers if my life depended on it.
Yeah.
And all these other bands we've talked about, I could probably hum 3 or 4, just off the top of my head. So that's a big thing.
Interesting. Well, I'll dig a little bit deeper on that because it's interesting that I think the Taylor Swift phenomenon happened. I was still teaching guitar when she came on the scene, and within the first 2 months of the record release, I had 6 to 10 girls every week coming in with an acoustic guitar going, I want to play Taylor. Of course, cool. 80% of them quit after 2 lessons, recognizing that they couldn't learn how to play guitar in 2 lessons. So that is one of those freaky phenomenons that happened. And I'm sure it happened when Edward Van Halen came out. It happened when Kiss came out and so forth.
Or the Beatles. Yeah.
Or the Beatles. Exactly. Yeah. Spot on that. Okay. So we're coming up on the 6 o'clock. Ned, you need to wrap up, right? Because Ned's going to leave us.
Yeah. Sorry. Since I live here in LA, I've got to get up north into the city and traffic gets impassable after about 4.
I feel your pain, sir. I used to remember that.
Add some snow to the mix. That'll get you going.
Where are you, Jay? Where are you?
I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, my uncle was a Episcopalian minister in Ann Arbor for years and years and years and years.
Oh, really? What do you know? What church he was at?
Oh, the Episcopalian church there. Doug Evett was his name. So anyway, I feel your pain on the Great Lakes winters there.
Well, I had a company that did sound. I designed and installed sound systems for a number of years in my post-road career, and churches all over the place. So,
it's fantastic. Yeah,
I still dabble in consulting and helping churches. I've been working with a big church a gospel church in Ypsilanti for the last few weeks.
Yeah, you didn't retire. You're just working less.
They keep finding me. I don't know.
If you're in this industry, you never retire. You can't.
No, you're absolutely right. There's no reason to because this is about the heart, the passion. This
it is. Yeah.
So, Ned, before you leave, show us what's your latest album. And, you want to tell everybody about your tour coming up this next year with Steve and Joe?
No, it just wrapped up. I spent 6 months overseas.
I thought you were going back out beginning of next year.
Here is Strange Kind of Freedom. It's a vinyl record. Here's my band members on the back. It's 10 songs. I do my usual thing. I wrote like 20 songs and picked 10 of that 20 to put on the album. And I sort of take that approach with songwriting. And I'm happy to say I made it alive through the tour and I'm back. 6 months.
We're gonna need to have you come back and talk about that tour because I know that's got to be one of the most memorable things to 100%. Be in Europe.
Yeah,
and you doing your thing. That's the beauty of it.
Let us know when you're near Ann Arbor.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, it's a huge privilege to do what we do. It's great meeting you all, and of course, Jeff, I've known you for a long time. Thanks for the opportunity, and let's do this again sometime.
Absolutely, Ned. Hey, happy holidays, brother.
All right,
take care, Ned.
Cheers,
you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. So now let's go here. What I did is I asked ChatGPT regards to what would be the top rated pop songs, and pop music. We now treat that term differently than when it first came out. Of course, right when the advent of radio and started to create the opportunity for songs to be replayed over and over. and popular is really what pop music. You got fuzzy a little bit, Jay. What happened?
It got fuzzy a lot. I don't know. It's on autofocus, so I didn't do it. Honestly,
there you go. I thought I was
turned,
drinking already.
I turned the autofocus, and I lost my lights earlier. I've got these two soft white lights that I on a dimmer that I put, and for some reason they went off, and I can't get them started. So I'm less than perfect visually.
No, but you look good. I mean, you're still lit well.
You're in the perfect vocal booth.
There you go.
Yeah, you do have a lot of.
I just have a backdrop back there because back when I was in my sales career, we kind of pioneered this kind of stuff. With a company called Hitcast that was an Italian company. There was only two people doing it at the time. It was Microsoft and Hitcast, two people in the whole world, and now all of a sudden, everybody does it. So
right.
But I had, I have a shirt hanging up there that if I need to put a shirt on,
there you go.
I still have it hanging there in a backdrop. It's just a cloth that I pull across.
Yeah. That's great. That's the thing about, podcasting has just gone off into its own world and has created its own universe in the last 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
As a matter of fact, podcasters talk about this, especially the veteran ones have talked about that. It seems to be there's more people jumping on the bandwagon wanting to become a podcaster, influencer, and so forth, but not really have any kind of technical skills or even have really the mindset of how hard of work this really is.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to do it every week, do it every day, just keep posting and keep going.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, it reminded me being in a band, being on the scene, because you have the level of creation, production, and creativity all tie into that. And you have to put it into the schedule to make it work. If you don't, needless to say, it won't go anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the aspect of earning the audience, that is the part, just like, when we go out there in the band, slugging it out, passing the flyer, hey, thank you for coming out, free tickets, all those things I did back in the band days. I'm kind of doing this with the podcasting industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And very fortunately, of course, I got hooked up with redpills.tv, Josh Reed, and everything just kind of blew up from that point. But now let's go back to the pop songs. Didn't it go veer off on that? The thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to find out what would be considered the popular songs. I want to get both of your feedbacks in regards to what do you think of the song, and we talk a little bit about it, because here's what I've always found, that great songs doesn't have a genre. Great songs just have great emotional content, and it somehow infiltrates you on a DNA cellular level where you carry it with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
here's the top songs. Number one song being Yesterday by the Beatles. Okay. So I of course, growing up in the 70s and playing in bands starting in the late 70s, early 80s, Yesterday was always talked about when I read magazines and so forth, trying to do my research. And those days doing research was really tough because that's it, magazines and books. And Yesterday's often mentioned as the most recorded song. Jay, give me your point of view in regards to, and I know you were growing up during the Beatles invasion, British invasion time.
Yeah, I was, when I was 10 years old, I started playing guitar, and what I did was learn Beatles songs. So that was
right.
And I had a neighborhood friend. His name was Robert Gillespie. We called him Gigi. And he went on to become, we played together all the time and hung out together. He became one of the top guitarists in the Detroit music scene. He played, he was with Mitch Ryder for years. He played in the reconstituted MC5 with Rob Tyner before he passed away. He's got 4 or 5 other bands around Detroit. Very famous guy. He passed away a couple of years ago. And but him and I grew up, we were learning Beatles songs.
Yeah. And what do you remember about the songs as you were learning it? Was it complicated? Was it, this is crafty? What was thoughts do you remember?
Well, it was ridiculously simple, really, when you look back on it. It was easy enough for us to learn. nowadays when I look back, I think about that. There's genius in that simplicity. I think.
Yes.
That's. And we mentioned things like Main Street. When I toured Muscle Shoals last year, which was a treat for me. I love going to these famous museums and seeing stuff that goes on.
Yeah.
And you listen to all these records that those guys made, and it's, there's nobody ever plays too much.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah, that's one of the things that was drilled to me too. I was playing in a band that was not as rock; it was a little bit more esoteric, and they were graduates from North Texas State, so that's pedigree, right? Yeah. And the first thing that came out of their mouth is, "Calm down. We know you can play.
Yeah,
give me space."
Yeah.
And I was 22 at that time, and I remember thinking to myself, "Oh, okay." And that really disciplined me quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's no different than don't just sit there. You get in a fight, start kicking and swinging. Calm down, right? Yeah. Cole, what do you think about the song yesterday?
I mean, it's like Jay said, it's simple. I mean, I think I've always made the argument you can write a hit song with 2 chords. I mean, it's about connecting with something that's kind of ethereal in a way, but kind of just tapping into something that's grander than what you're saying. In a way, the words in some way mean more than what they just literally say. They're kind of descriptive, but they allow anybody to kind of interpret them in their own way. I absolutely love artists that do that. I try to do that myself, where I may have been thinking about something and I write it as a whole, and that picture, by the time I look at the whole as a picture, it may be something different than what I started off writing.
Sure.
I think that capturing that kind of entity as a song and that simplicity is some of the best songs in the world. That doesn't mean that a song can't be complicated, but I've always made an argument to, leave that space, especially as a singer, right? Playing with some of the prog, guys that I've played with over the years. Sometimes you go, "Hey man, where do you want me to sing in this? Give me a little time." You want me to leave stage
the guy
while
with
you're playing
the RC, right? The RC. Hey dude, calm down.
I remember asking. I said, "I can just leave stage for the 10 minutes you guys want, and I'll come back on." And, but I mean, that simplicity is the key to almost everything to me.
Right.
You take 2 chords. That's the beauty of writing a song, right? Is that you can learn those 3 chords that you learn when you are the 2 days into by the time you you grab a capo and you can write any song. So it's a beauty of that simplicity.
Yeah, ain't talking about Love from Van Halen's 2 chords. I remember reading that in his guitar player interview and thinking to myself, then I went back and listened to it and going, okay, it is 2 chords, but he arpeggiates, he accents.
Exactly.
He does all kind of little things to create that dynamic.
Yeah, you'd be amazed what you can do. You write 2 songs that take 2 chords and then write a verse, a bridge, and a chorus, but use those same chords, but just play them a little bit different.
Right.
You can make a great song.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Jay, let me ask you this: being simple, like what we're talking about in songwriting, I think it helps the listener, because most listeners, your fan base, are not musicians.
Sure.
In the case of Kiss, I distinctively remember hearing the song "Come On and Love Me," and I thought this was brilliant. I'm a Capricorn, she's a Cancer. I mean, he had this wordsmith thing that was, I thought, beyond just good. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Did you see that being developed as night after night, seeing those guys doing this?
Well, I mean, they were all about songs, and they were just simple, let party all night and party every night and every day. They were, Detroit Rock City. I mean, get the Firehouse. She sets my soul on fire. I mean, it's almost silly. It's so simple, but that's what made it happen. Is that you could remember the songs, you could hear it. They were simple, and they brought it off.
And I think one of the things about having good, clean, simple type of songs, that you, as a kid who is learning how to play, then you can grasp it. I think that's huge in regards to getting that message, building the fan base, and writing that iconic song. I don't think any kid can sit there and listen to Baker Street and go, "Oh man, I can nail this."
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't think that's because I remember at 13 when that song came out, and I thought this is a great song, but what the hell are they doing? That's the first thing that came to my mind, right?
Well, I had a lot of different likes when I was young. I loved Bob Dylan. I loved Yes and the Mahavishnu Orchestra, which was all kind of, people that could play like crazy.
Right.
The other day I was reading an article about the girl that sang the thing in the Pink Floyd song where she all goes like crazy.
Right. Great Gig in the Sky.
Yeah. And she made like 30 pounds for the, it was the scale for the 2 hour,
right,
4 hour recording scale was 30 pounds or something like that. And they ended up paying her a bunch of money later on because the part became so
iconic.
Famous.
Yeah. No doubt. And I think for a lot of us who at that time, when the record was somewhat fresh, the first decade, we always thought it was a black girl singing it.
Yeah.
We had no idea it was a white girl in Britain that could do this
off the street. She was, just a side musician girl that sang, and she put her heart into it. That's for sure.
Oh, no doubt. Great song from that record.
Yeah.
That record is just iconic itself.
Oh, yeah.
I think that sound, the way they approached it. I mean, and there's a lot of YouTube stuff now that we see David Gilmour talking about using the synthesizer, using the pedal steel, and you're kind of looking at it, it's like, wow, what creativity.
And even some of that prog rock stuff is a lot. I can think of 2 or 3 Pink Floyd things in my head, or Yes things in my head.
Right.
It's complex and musical that they're, as musicianship as it was, they were still songs. They still got you humming along when you got in the car at the end of the day or something. So
think about a song like Roundabout. You can't quit singing that.
exactly, Cole. It was, that was the way that they got crossed over. I mean, I hate to say how many people that are so talented that can play. I mean, I can think of people like Yngwie Malmsteen. He plays 3,000 notes a minute, but Jim McCarty can put more soul into 3 notes than
Right.
I just never heard a song or any feeling from the guy. So I don't mean to slam Yngwie, but some people might like him. But
no, I'm a huge Yngwie fan, but I understand fully exactly what you mean by that.
I mean, he can play, but I don't know.
No, I think there's a level of virtuoso musicianship, that is on the top shelf level of performance on the individual instrument. However, it is not going to resonate with everybody just due to the fact that I don't think that, number one, we're taught the level of aptitude to our music when we're growing up, unless you're in a musical family. I really think that if you went to public school, good luck with that, right? Because they're just basically making sure you're going to survive school.
It's like advanced songwriting. Once you get to the point where you get to the point where you can physically do that, you want to at least let people know you can do it.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so let me do this. Instead of going song by song, I'm going to just name off the songs, and then we'll start with Jay regards to pick the song that I've named, that if you have any fond memory or point of views toward. So we did Yesterday from the Beatles, and the top 10 as followed from, of course, Artificial Intelligence is Imagine by John Lennon. That's a song that is on this list. What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. Love the song, right?
Yeah.
Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. Now, see, that to me was just like out of nowhere. Something can go on the radio like that.
Yeah.
I was
blown. It's so iconic, right? I mean, it's so unusual. So it's going to stand out.
Right. Oh, no doubt. As a matter of fact, I was at a family vacation thing, and we're sitting with 3 grandkids in the back seat, the kids in front with the wife, me, my wife. Song comes on, the entire car singing it. The youngest being 11 years old, the oldest being 72.
Was it Saturday Night Live where they
Well, we couldn't complete the whole thing without doing the head bob, right? But that just shows you the power
It's generational,
what
that song, you know, it is.
Yeah, oh, no doubt. And it's just, and it's funny thing, you know, I'll tell you both that when I went and saw Queen for the first time, the only time that came in was 1980 when they did the Game Tour. And when I went to see that, I only knew like, We Will Rock You, We Are the Champion, and a crazy little thing called Love. That's it. That's all I knew about that band. By the time I left, I was so blown away that the entire arena knew the lyrics to Love of My Life, to, you know, Save Me, whatever it may be. That immediately next day I went to the record store and bought the live Killer Queen. That's how much it impacted me.
One of the couple bands that I seriously regret never having been able to see. So, yeah,
well, it's top. You know, when people say, "Well, what's the most memorable shows that you've seen?" Queen is definitely right up there.
Yeah,
because
everybody, especially all my British friends and whatnot, they're all like, yeah, they were the stuff. And the other one that I regret not seeing that all my British buddies said was Thin Lizzy.
Oh, I bet
they all rave about Thin Lizzy. I mean,
right.
I never got to see them or work with them. So, what are you gonna do?
No, you can't see everybody.
Can't
go back and look at live footage. Do your best.
Right.
You know, with Thin Lizzy, I've tried to find like. There's like TV shows and stuff, but there's very, very, very little available, like just raw concert stuff.
Right.
You know, I'd love to see, you know, an 8mm thing of them, and I can't find anything about it. So.
Right. Yeah. Because I know back then television appearances was all canned music. So there's a couple things out there from them if you do some searching that are sort of recorded live, but they're professionally recorded, and you know, it's nice, it's fun, it's good, but I'd like to see a show. Right. Oh, I bet that would have been great.
Yeah, I went back and bought the US Festival, 83 US Festival.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good one. Go back and look at all those acts.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. You're talking about all 3 days too, right? Yeah, because there was some really great stuff.
Great
on
stuff.
The New Wave Day, right? And
yeah,
then I don't know what they called the other day. New.
There was a rock day, I think, because it was
rock metal, right?
Yeah.
The introduction of Jake E. Lee happened that day, and I remember when I saw that on Showtime, I was like, "Oh man, this dude is even crazier and better than Brad Gillis." That's my first thought because you know Brad was incredible. To having to step in the shoes of Randy when Randy gone, right?
Yeah.
So that was definitely memorable. Van Halen was always great, needless to say. But all right, so let me finish this list of the songs and see what you guys think. Rolling down on the other side, we have "Like a Rolling Stone" by Dylan. Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Yeah,
but I don't necessarily think that would be that's me. "Respect" by Aretha Franklin. I hear that all the time.
Iconic.
In my house. Yeah. Hotel California, the Eagles. Or Eagles.
Yeah.
Right? "I Will Always Love You" by Dolly Parton.
Okay.
You know, that to me actually is on par with Yesterday on the way that the song lays out.
Yeah.
You know, let's finish out. The last 2 songs on this list is "Stand By Me" by Ben E. King.
Okay. Love it.
Yep. Great song.
Yeah.
And "Let It Be" by the Beatles. So Beatles get to be on 2 slots. On
there
this.
You go.
Right. You know, let's just set aside for the Beatles. You know, it blows my mind how great their career was in that one decade.
Oh boy.
Right. Because of just the creativity of it, right along with the great producers such as George, and that first time of understanding multi-track from the 4, then linking up to 2, then bouncing and learning all those little tricks. Jay, why don't you start and give us a little feedback during that period of mid 60s, around 66, 67, going into 68. What did you see the music scene in the songs, especially with Pet Sounds and Sgt. Pepper?
Oh boy. And you just hit on one that's Pet Sounds is something I can sit and listen to from start to finish.
Yeah, me too.
You know, once a week if I or more. To me it's just brilliant. But it, like I said earlier, I at that time I was really kind of, between a number of different things. I was very much into blues, the whole Chicago thing, Buddy Guy and stuff like that. And,
Right.
and I was into the Beatles, and of course I liked the Rolling Stones. I mean, the whole British invasion thing.
Yeah.
And I was deeply involved in listening to Motown music.
Sure.
Having grown up in Detroit, I mean, that was the Motown thing is like magic to me. I just, I go down to that. I've been to the Motown Museum probably 8 times.
Wow.
And every time I go there, it's like going to church. It's like,
Sure.
It's just memorable. How they made those songs out of that little place is just incredible. Incredible. So those are probably my most, the things that were influencing the most at that time. And of course, Dylan, like you said, I mean, like Rolling Stone, the whole Dylan thing, I was very into Bob Dylan at the time.
Right. So. Yeah. Dylan was so popular that the peers, such as McCartney, Lennon, Hendrix, were all digging him so much. They were literally like copying the template of songwriting, if not just taking his song and redoing it as well, right?
Well, and a lot of the songs became hits all over, Mr. Tambourine Man, and, there was the Byrds did them, and, I'm having a brain fart now, but, tons of people did the songs to where they were just all over the place,
Right. Well, like a Rolling Stone, definitely, it's been covered by enough bands, similar to Robert Johnson type of stuff, come into my kitchen and things like that, that became a standard that a lot of rock bands use, because I think it's simple enough to adapt to your own sound, your own style. So therefore you can kind of move it in there, and because they're kind of a hidden type of songs, meaning that they didn't get saturated on the airwave by radio, that it isn't like all of a sudden, oh, you're just playing like a jukebox. You're actually playing songs that other people go, oh, that's pretty good. Baby, Please Don't Go. It's another.
Those are my favorite songwriters. Are the ones you don't have no idea who they are until somebody else makes a song big, John Prine or somebody like that. Where you go, where did that? You have to go back and research where it came from. So I love those kind of hidden. Yeah. The ones that pass you before your eyes until somebody famous makes it popular.
Yeah. John Prine was great. He was. I did a number of shows with him back in the day, with our sound company, Fanfare.
Yeah.
He used us whenever he came around Ann Arbor. We did him in Chicago, Ann Arbor, I don't know, somewhere in Indiana. I probably did about a dozen shows with John. He was a wonderful guy.
Not bad. And what kind of show would John put on?
Pretty much just it was him solo at the time.
Wow.
So it was no band or anything.
So it would be almost equivalent to, like, say, Joan Baez type of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I did her one time too. She made us turn all the fans off of the amplifier racks. It was so quiet.
That's right. Aretha makes you turn off all the AC. So.
Oh my God! Yeah, thank God we never. Me and a fella named Big Ed, Ed Larned. He's out. He tours with Herbie Hancock now, but we used to just fly out to the weekend, and we didn't have to ride the bus because the bus never had AC on it or anything. People are there, oh my God, you couldn't have AC on. She didn't like AC, and she didn't fly. She wouldn't fly it towards you, and she was tricky. She called me one time, and before I was really knew what was going on. She says, Jay, is there a way to get to Los Angeles? If we go that south route, will we see any mountains? And I was so stupid. I said, well, yeah, there's a beautiful string of mountains you got to go by to get there. Oh, okay, thank you. And then I find out, well, she doesn't like riding through mountains, so she tricked me into telling the truth about the nice ride to L.A.
Well, that's funny.
They used to take this route when she'd go to New York. They took some roundabout way that avoided all the mountains. It took about 6 hours longer to get there, but she didn't care. She didn't want to be in the mountains. Didn't want to be in the mountains. Didn't want to be on an airplane. So
right.
Afraid of
And this is
heights.
just her little. This is just her little personal quirk or superstition.
One of many.
Thing. Well, it makes it interesting, fun tour in work relationship, doesn't it?
That's a little off topic, but anyhow.
All right, Cole. You and I are about the same age, so we're like a little bit a decade behind Jay in that sense. So when we were in our so-called teen years, it started to get things happening and so forth. The bands that was happening was very guitar driven because it came literally from the 60s toward the end of the 60s with the Jimi Hendrix, the Cream, and then we go on, and it developed, the Blue Cheer, Grand Funk Railroad, So give me an idea in regards to when you were at this point, you got into listening to more progressive stuff because of Kansas and Rush like that.
Yeah,
what was the song that jumped out and just went, oh my goodness, how do I do this?
Yeah, I mean, it had to have been Rush. It had to have been Trees or something like that. When it was the probably that I forget what album Trees was on, but it was
Hemisphere.
probably I think it was just after 2112, right? It was I forget which one.
Hemisphere.
Maybe Trees was on. Was it Hemispheres? Okay.
Hemisphere.
Yeah, and then I mean, it was just that. It was the soundscape they were creating. It was that storyline. I mean, back when I was young, I was into, reading books like The Hobbit and all that kind of era, that kind of fantasy stuff. And so it was this kind of this magical thing. And I think I realized as a kid, I was lucky enough to be around a lot of creative people anyway, people that were going to, what was it? What was the art school there? Was it what was the art school that was there in I want to say HSPVA or High School for Performing and Visual Arts there.
Houston.
So a lot of my friends ended up going there instead of to regular school. A lot of the friends that I knew at this era.
Right.
So I was around a lot of creative people. So I think for me, I realized, wow, how cool would it be to write something like this, whether it be a book or whether it be a song. And then as I found a group of people that I really could play with and start, writing with, I think it was just the fantasy to be able to create that, kind of that visual, script in your world, and then be able to have a creative outlet,
Oh,
because I didn't get into HSPVA. I tried.
Right. Well, I think, we were very fortunate. I mean, all of us here, that we are alive in a period of time where music was emphasized, the artisan aspect of it. Yeah. And this, I think, really started with the advent of guitar being away from just part of the orchestra. Like, Charlie Christian started with playing single line notes, right? And then, of course, by the late 40s, early 50s, Les Paul and Mary Ford really gave that scape a different, fresh view to it. And then, of course, Hank Garland and all kind of guys start popping up with this great things. But the Beatles, that Ed Sullivan things, I can't begin to say how many more musicians that I've seen that is iconic, legendary musicians, right? Whether it's be Simmons, whether it's be Mike Campbell, whoever it may be, all points at that moment of going, yeah, something went click in my head and go, I got to do that.
We were all on our TVs that night.
Yes.
Everybody.
And the funny thing is, when I got into music in the mid 70s, Beatles already broken up, right? But I somehow got into the Beatles so heavily, literally, from the point that I start buying all the records, whether it be the White Album, Sgt. Pepper, and start playing them backwards, looking for messages.
Sure.
And I was just blown away in regards to just how rich this band and its legacy and what they were bringing to the table. And mind you, my very first Beatle record was the repackaged Love Songs.
Oh, boy.
So it wasn't a standard, so-called Beatles issues. And as this was going along, I'm going, wow, this is just an incredible band. I hope they reform. Beatlemania came on Broadway. You guys remember that? A full-on production of 4 guys going through eras of the Beatles with backdrops. And this was phenomenal. I saw it, Beatlemania touring company, when they played Houston at the Music Hall. Same week John Lennon was shot. Isn't that ironic? I go see this show. I'm going, this is fantastic. I can't wait. I hope they get back together. A few days later, John's gone.
Yeah.
Right. So we all know at that point, you can't have that. There's nobody can replace that, you know. But the Beatle thing sat even deeper because of this emotional change. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, we'll never have this again. It's the same thing with John Bonham. When Bonham died, and I was so waiting for that tour in 1980. They're going to be great when they come to America. Yeah. Bonham passes. Oh, great. So the only thing I had to live with is go see Song Remains the Same 1,000 times because that's it.
Yeah, it was just 45 years from John Lennon. I put up on a Facebook a little story I put up. The day he was killed, it was the end of our tour with Bob Seger, our European tour in 1980. Wow. And we were in Stockholm, Sweden, and we woke up in the morning, and in the of course it was 1 a.m. or something, Detroit time or New York time, and they had one of these ticker tape things, like the old news things where the news come ticking off, and they had it in the lobby of the hotel. And that's how we learned that John Lennon was dead.
Right.
It was like 8 o'clock in the morning in Sweden, and we saw this ticker thing coming on. It was.
I'm sure the thought has to come across as disbelief when you see that.
Yeah, it was. We were all kind of floored. Bob was a mess. He was really hurt by it. Well, we all were, you know. So
sure.
It was a quiet, long flight home. So.
I bet. Well, you know, I think John the Beatles touched so many people, especially even after, you know, the whole breakup and they went on their own ways. I think when John came back with Double Fantasy, we all embraced it because it was a little bit more mature of John. It wasn't so angry at the world, John, if you will. And I remember at that time when I got Double Fantasy and listened to it, I was like, this is not the Beatles, but I love this. And I couldn't wait for them to come back out. I didn't know if they were going to bring Yoko, because I saw Yoko Plastic Band thing, and I just went, he left the Beatles for this? Right? And of course, now the most famous thing is that television appearance with them and Chuck Berry. That thing, I think, has got multiple millions of views just from Chuck's expression having to deal with that, right? So let me ask, let's start with Cole on this one. Tell me a song that is not often mentioned, but just always gets to you as, man, this is such a great song.
Well, I think there's artists that you relate to in so many ways. Part of the reason I put back this poster back here is there's a gentleman that was from Houston. His name is Chris Whitley. One of my favorite songwriters. And so almost everything he put out just, you know, brings you to tears. I mean, in some ways, you know, he had a lot, he struggled with substance abuse, as some of the great writers do, unfortunately. Yes. Yeah. But he was, to me, he was one of my, he's kind of unknown in some ways, but almost like a John Prine thing where he wrote songs and, you know, you just kind of go, man, that's such a great, you know, a poet in a way, you know, like a tortured poet, you know, kind of type of songwriters. And somehow those types of songs kind of just constantly come back to me, as far as, you know, speak to me in some ways.
Right.
I don't know why, because I don't feel like I'm a torture poet, but
right.
But
well, that's interesting, because I was going to ask you, do you feel you have to have a tortured soul to reach that level of emotion?
That's a very interesting question, and you know, I've struggled with it a lot. In fact, I'm thinking about writing a book about it. But I kind of feel like some of the greatest artists in some ways struggle with things, and that struggle kind of sets them on a new level. And I, as a songwriter, struggle with that kind of, that, you know, like, feel like I can recall when I was younger, you know, kind of what we call looking over the edge, you know, getting to the edge of that, where you're kind of going, hey, am I, you know, being safe here?
Right.
And some great songs came from that. But, in some ways, I thank God, I did. But in some ways, I always came back from that edge a bit, But I've, in some ways, peeking over the edge was enough for me. I was lucky to be able to skirt the any kind of real, addiction problems and stuff like that.
Right.
But I don't know. That's an interesting question, because I definitely have thought about that multiple times in my life. I mean, I love Jim Morrison. I love Chris Whitley. I love some of the, those real tortured songwriting souls and those lyrics that they come up with. And that's my own personal struggles to, kind of want to be there and experience those things. Yeah. And coming back from the edge has always been my choice, but I guess that's a good thing. At least I'm here to be able to say it.
That's right. You're producing it opposed to just flaming out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, they say, the bright stars shine bright.
Yeah,
and I think that's in some ways that's a, that is a that's truth. That's, I guess they're able to speak the truth. Amy Winehouse. Some of her songs.
Yes.
Some of those songs are just so powerful in some ways. Now, that doesn't mean that some of the greatest songwriters in the world, Bruce Springsteen's got some really powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting. Yeah. That's something I've struggled with just from a songwriter standpoint. It's questioning myself if I peeked over the edge enough.
Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I remember a manager of mine when I first got into the business. He says, "You haven't learned anything in life yet, son. You really want to be a great musician? Go hitchhike, leave home." Yeah. And I looked at him and like, "What are you, nuts?" He goes, "No, go live life, then come back and tell me that you're a great musician."
This thread reminds me totally of Bob Seger's "Turn the Page."
Yeah.
And, while he wrote a lot of great songs after that, there was, that's the one that really kind of hit home. And, some folks get to a point where, it's kind of hard to write a blues about a flat tire in your Porsche.
That's right. Yes.
But Turn the Page was one that and it hits the fans. I mean, there was a couple nights that he didn't play it. And I was afraid for my life. They were pissed at me. They're all leaving. Well, turn the page. What are you? I said, Bob, they're gonna come after me if you don't play this song.
I'm really surprised. Why would he make a decision that omit a such popular song?
I don't know. So just I'd like to mix it up a little bit. Well,
Yeah.
Could you imagine? When you write like your band like Aerosmith or any of those bands that just have to play those songs night after night after night. I can't imagine having to at some point you're like, oh my God, even it hurts too much to sing it.
Turn the Page that wasn't one of them. So
right. Turn the Page is such a great song because it sets such a mood. I think that's one thing about Bob that I really loved, whether it's to be Night Moves, whether it's to be, Main Street, Turn the Page, Like a Rock, every song that he does, the first 30 seconds changes your whole environment.
Well, but if you listen to the earlier stuff, East Side Story, Persecution Smith, there's a whole list of stuff. Even it was a grittiness and a that comes from not being a star.
Catmandu's like that.
It
has a rawness to it.
There's some Catmandu, but even heavy music and the early few albums were pretty rocking, that's for sure. So.
Oh, no doubt.
I think that's a beautiful thing too, right? To listen to a catalog of an artist that's been around, that long. Yeah. And hear that, I remember as a singer, I would always go, oh, why aren't those, those older singers hitting those high notes that they sang when they were young? And, and then as I got older, I realized how much better their storytelling was getting and how much, so it really, it changed my thought process when it came to, just that,
It was a different thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we had the guitars at E flat in 1986.
I think that was popular in the 80s.
But if you have to work that much too, I mean, you got to be able to preserve and do whatever you can, because every night's a new crowd.
Thank
right?
God for in-ear monitors.
Yeah. What a change, huh?
Yes. All right, Jay, let me ask you this, sir. Since the British invasion affected you as a kid coming up at that point, the two bands I talked about the most, of course, is the Beatles and the Stones.
Yeah.
The unsung hero to me, which is even bigger influence for me, was the Who.
They were enormous to me as well. I love that. Yeah, I could listen to Who's Next all day long, and Live at Leeds was one of my favorites. And I love the Who.
Yeah, I love the Who. Give me your opinion of Pete Townshend's writing.
Oh, fabulous! Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. And the things that he hit, I thought had a certain emotional solitude, a solemnness that the other bands in the British invasion didn't even come close to.
Yeah,
you know,
the early stuff was, and then once again, that's a writer that went from a more of a hardcore thing on some of the early stuff to a little more. Well, I could never call him really refined, but it got a little more complex and a little different, you know. So
right, and interesting things too is that Pete was a very simple guitar player, right?
Yeah.
You know, we can't say he was a Hendrix or a Clapton or anything like that. Although he can hold his own, I would say he's not, completely, a chord guy, because Woodstock, that piece of film with the Who, was a huge part of my growing up. To learn "See Me, Feel Me," in of course, "Summertime's Blues" on Woodstock. The thing that really always got me about Pete was the dynamics of how he worked. He's a great wordsmith.
Yeah.
So he brings a certain point of views that I just felt that the other guys, whether it's be John, Paul, or, Mick, Keith, they didn't even come close to. And yet when we look at it now, when you talk to people, on the British invasion and so forth, you rarely hear people talk about the Who. Why do you think that is, Jay?
I don't know. I certainly remember them, and I mean, I love them. I love the Kinks. I loved.
Yes.
Boy, there was a bunch of them. Now I'm doing another senior moment here, but there was a lot of it going on. It was great.
Right. Well, I know Paul Revere and the Raiders was popular, right? Dave Clark 5 was super popular.
Oh yeah. Well, and Dave. You want to hear a funny Dave Clark story?
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
Right. So I'm with Cheap Trick, and we're in London, and my wife Pam is with me, and we had all been consuming adult beverages for some time. We were at this restaurant called Mr. Chow's. There's one in L.A. and there's one in London, and famous place, and we all came in there. Hey, yeah, Jay, this is Dave. Hi, Dave. How you doing? And he says, well, yeah, when I was with the band. I said, which band? It's like, oh my God, it's my most embarrassing moment in my whole rock and roll history. It's like, the Five, of course. Sitting there with Dave Clark at the restaurant.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. But, sometimes when you walk up to somebody up close, it doesn't snap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of course, at that time, he wasn't playing anymore. He had become a very famous business executive in the music. I mean, he became mega wealthy and whatnot from being a record label and all kinds of stuff. But he was unique because he was was almost like lead drums in those songs. You listen to some of those songs, and the drums were right there.
Right.
It was a real unique sound for even to this day. Yeah. You don't hear a lot of bands that are kind of led by the drums, So
yeah. Well, that's where I think when a good band has equal components. When I say equal components, we're talking about Rush. We're talking about Led Zeppelin. We're talking about the Beatles, and those type guys. And the drums are not just the beatbox.
Yeah.
The drums is every bit supporting all the dynamics of the words.
Yeah.
Even at times enhancing those phrases.
Yeah.
Right. And I love Keith Moon. I think Keith.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, the way he and Ginger Baker had the similar effect to me, which was they're moving with the song. They don't necessarily come back to the same thing even though the guitar chords is there doing the same thing, or the vocal melody is doing the same thing. But because they moved it just a bit, the song is alive, opposed to cut paste section 1, cut paste section 2, and then it becomes, you know,
very few that could get away with it. You know.
Well, you have to be really, I think, in tune with your band. Number one, you have to be really on top of yourself, understanding who you are to your instrument. One of the things I've discovered, I can say, I listen to Van Halen excessively because I just love Ed. But Van Halen 2 is probably one of the least listened to record out of my Van Halen collection because, you know, it starts off with, you know, She's No Good and Dance the Night Away. It's, you know, kind of poppy. But funny thing is that the other day I listened to Van Halen 2, and after Dance the Night Away, Somebody Give Me a Doctor, Out of Love, all those songs came up, and I just went, what the hell am I even talking about? Yeah. This is Van Halen at its finest, with Ed and Alex talking to each other on their instruments.
Songs.
Yeah.
Right. So again, that's what another components of a great song I thought was that it could be something that sits dormant for many years on a listener's ear, and then one day it goes smack right into your pineal gland. You're going, where have this been my life? Right?
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it takes your maturity as a listener to grow into a song like that, or even, you know, but I mean, even when it comes to like jazz or something like that, you know, I mean, it's the maturity as you as a listener, and especially as a musician, to start understanding those types of songs.
Right. I found myself with later Rush albums that way, you know, because you know, being a guitar player, of course, you're like, you know, everything after Moving Picture became synthesizing. You know, but now I'm like, what's your favorite records? I don't have a favorite records, but I can tell you this, you know, Mystic Rhythm is great. You know, Tai Shin is great, you know, and then I start going off on all these records that was never on my playlist when I was a, you know, younger guy. Yeah. And this is what I found, that I did a deep dive on Elton John not too long ago, went through his whole catalog from beginning to end. And I was just blown away just how great his career and his records were. And this is something I would have never bought into when I was in my 20s. Why? Because it wasn't guitar.
Well, like Madman was fabulous. Since we're on drummers, can I pop up a picture here real quick? I want to pull something. This is, if I just hit present, I think. I have it in the stack here. I don't know what to do to show it off.
Let me see.
Can you put it up, or do I need to do something?
Is it Rush Drumhead?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Look at that.
Well, that's you know, they were our opening act, our favorite opening act with Kiss, and I cherish this because down at the bottom it says 40 years of friendship, and what do you get? A broken drumhead signed NP.
All right.
So, there you go.
That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And Neil's such a great guy. You know, I read several of his books.
Wonderful, great guy. We had so much fun with those guys.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting how he didn't like the fanfare, you know, the meeting greets or any of that. But yet he's always so very deep thought, very I think considerate. Some of the things that I've seen that Neil have done is that when fans wrote letters to him, he write back postcards with in-depth knowledge of what the questions were.
And he used to ride his motorcycle. They had one of my best friends, Craig Blazer, CB, lives in Ann Arbor here, was their production manager for years. And he had his own bus, and he had his own little trailer behind the bus with about 4 motorcycles in it. And there was a fellow that it was a good friend of his. Yeah. And they would like leave Detroit with a day off to go to Chicago, and he could be like, I don't know, bumfuck Wisconsin somewhere or something at some diner. And they never knew where they had the guy. His friend had a cell phone. Neil didn't want to, don't bother me. If you need me, call, I can't remember his name, but you know, and he'd just be at some diner in the middle of nowhere, and you know, the waitress didn't know who the hell he was, and he'd show up at the, you know, in the afternoon at the next place on his motorcycle.
Yeah. That's so
That's
great.
the perfect
that,
tour.
Yeah. And that's just, so I think he kept us sanity with that, because touring is grinding. Would you say, Jay?
Oh,
No
yeah.
question, especially if you're young, undisciplined in sense of self. Then all the dangling of the carrots of come party with us. Oh, there's girls here. It could drag you down in less than a year.
Those early Kiss days, with Rush with us, we could do 4 or 5 shows a week, and you were just dog tired. I mean,
oh, I bet.
So
yeah,
he didn't have his own bus and the motorcycles back then, but that came a little later.
Right.
So.
No, as a matter of fact,
as he matured.
That's right. Well, I think you appreciate if you're touring and working like that, and you're doing the station wagon, right?
Yeah.
And then you graduate to some kind of a mini bus,
Oh, yeah.
So once you start to grow like that, you savor, I think, every step.
Yeah. I mean, we started driving the truck ourselves. It was a big deal when we got a semi, and CB and I could ride in the semi, taking turns sleeping. That was huge. And then when we got a bus, it was like, whoa, we're downtown now.
Right. Right. Well, I can only imagine too that early days of Kiss, when everybody was fighting over peanut butter sandwiches and so forth, that you go to the town, you still have to put on that show. You still got to make sure that you got the confettis, you got the flash pots. And I remember one time I talked to JR about this, and JR says, we every time we go to, we just got to start nailing down all the production products, the stuff like confettis and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm really blown away by that, because most bands would just show up and set up the gear back line and costume change and call it a day. This band was so much more.
They had to reload a lot of that stuff throughout.
Yeah.
You couldn't carry enough with you, so you had to get it. You might get enough for a couple days, but you always had to shop for stuff.
Yeah. And the fun part was for us kids at that time, being 12, 13, seeing magazines such as 16 or Hit Parader giving us those photos of backstage, or it was just mind-blowing for us to see anything that's in a production side. One of the things I loved about Rush, every tour had a brand new tour program that lists all the gear.
Yeah.
Right. And that to me was heaven sent, because you just didn't know. They didn't list. Not many bands back then would list. If you walk into the music store, one guy is going to try to sell you everything in that store that they have. Nobody ever sat there and goes, well, Getty uses this as, so you want to try that.
That's what Guitar Magazine was for.
Right. And Guitar Magazine became definitely the cornerstone. In the 80s, I held my guitar stack of Guitar Player and Guitar World as gospel, because that was where I was learning cutting teeth. And of course, Bateman Music, I was there forever, Okay, we're getting ready to wrap up because I know we're running long. Hey, I want to thank you both for your insightfulness on songwriting, song, and just the overall how to look at bringing this type of creation to life.
Wow,
and I know that if the more people we can influence and inspire to go in this direction, the better off we are as society, because we're creative, we're artistic, and we're not a template, and to me, I think AI enhances if you use it right.
Yeah, it's a tool. I mean, that's the biggest thing. It's a tool. It's no different than a reverb back in the day. I remember when Auto-Tune came out and everybody said, you can't use that. That's cheating. And you're like, okay, but it sounds cool. I mean, it's just a tool, and if we continue to work with the tools, then we have more possibility for more creative outlets,
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. If we didn't do that, I mean, seriously, like guitar playing, if we didn't have digital delay,
but
how would the guitar industry would have changed? Yeah.
Well,
you'd have a tape echo. Jeff, right? Come on, you'd need a tape echo. So.
Right. Well, the tape echo has its own charm. There's no doubt. When I use the Roland Space Echo, I go into my all of a sudden Jimmy Page mindset, because it lends itself wanting to go there.
Sure.
Right. But I couldn't dial in my Steve Vai sound with it. You know what I mean?
That's a whole nother podcast, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Guitar
We should do one on
with
soundscape in creativity behind productions. Because I know you, Cole, on your records, you are very liberal in regards to, hey, let's try this. Let's go here.
Mm-hmm.
I love that about your work.
I just always try to figure out, I love to listen to a song or an album and go, how do I think they got that?
Yes.
That trains your ears to go, what made that sound? Oh, that sounds like a porcelain plate,
right?
On top of a snare drum or whatever it is. It's like those creative things just feed that song. And when you are able to take something creative like that, and that brings out something else, and something else brings out something else, and that's, you just kind of create this song from it. It's playing. It's being back in the playground.
Yeah. Oh, no question. As a matter of fact, I'll just do this story real quick. That in the early 90s, I was playing in a prog band that was between Kate Bush, Pink Floyd, and Jim Morrison. And we actually had David Ragsdale playing violin. And Ragsdale came from, at that time, Barbara Mandrell, and he was in between before he went to Kansas. And while we were working on being creative, the singer was so open to ideas that she took a ratchet, right, that you use for tools, and recognized that it makes that click, click, click sound. And hey, it fits in the sound, in the beat, in the message we're going on this particular song.
Yep.
Who would have thought of that, right? So next thing you know, we're doing this song. She's up there going cheek, 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 with a ratchet. So
and pretty soon there'll be a new percussive instrument called the ratchet.
Yes, exactly. And you know what? It's because of moments like that made me not to be so stubborn. Yeah. Oh, well, Edward didn't do that, or Jimmy Page didn't do this. It totally opened up. And I'm grateful for those kind of experiences, So let's do this. Jay,
yes, sir.
What words of wisdom would you give to people who are wanting to become a songwriter?
I would think that, you could always search songwriters, but some of my favorites that you would listen to would be like in the Motown vein. You got Smokey Robinson, you got Holland Dozier Holland. Yeah. You have there's a couple others in there too. Carole King.
Yes.
Melts my heart every time I hear Up on the Roof. She was such a brilliant songwriter, and that whole Brill Building from New York group, they wrote a lot of songs. And obviously the Beatles that we've gone through the list,
right?
But listen to their songs, listen to that stuff, and absorb as much as you can. That's what I recommend is listen to great songs and look for your inspirations. Like Bob Seger saw the Main Street sign,
Yes.
Okay, and something comes of it.
Right.
He said he always got something from a movie or something, a lot of stuff from movies, lines in movies, he said.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was probably his number one source of inspiration. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Cole, how about you?
I mean, that's almost the same thing. I would say, I do the same thing, right? You just take the time to stop at any time you go, ooh, that's interesting. That 2-word phrase is interesting, or that idea is interesting, and just write down everything.
Yeah.
And, just throw it on a text note, or throw it on a piece of, little piece of paper back in the day. I've got tons of notebooks, old notebooks. Yeah. And I would say just be honest and keep being creative and honest, stay, the creativity comes from just experimenting in some ways.
Yeah.
So just throw it out there and don't worry about it, because the more you put out there, the more that's going to either stick or just be part of your catalog. And that's, to me, if you I've always said this: if I wake up at the end of my life and say, "Here's my life in 82 albums," that's I'm going to be happy with that.
All right. Awesome. And with that, give me 3 must-listen album, artist, or songs.
I think you can go first, Jay. It's going to take me a minute to come up with 3.
Well, I would say Beach Boys' Pet Sounds.
Yes.
What's Going On by Marvin Gaye.
Oh,
And
great.
oh boy, what would be the third one? Songs and I can't remember the name of the records, but I would say the let me think. You got me on that.
Because there are so many, isn't
wrote
it?
them down.
There's so many. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, I'll go here. I'll give 3 that I think that's quintessential because of the kind of sound they gave and the kind of energy, emotion. Number 1 is Carpenters with Karen Carpenter. That to me, if you got their extensive catalog of the greatest hits off the HD track where you can hear it at 24-bit 96, her voice in the whole entire orchestration of their songs are incredible.
Best voice ever, in my opinion. I love.
Oh, fantastic!
Voice.
Yeah, the innocence as well as the vulnerability that she is able to capture. You know, there's only a handful of I think songs or singers that can pull that off. Karen does it fantastically. I think Dido did it back in late 90s, early 2000s. Very few females that is not boisterous power, but hit you. I think the Canadian girl can hit that. Ronstadt's great.
She does some of that. Especially you listen to that Different Drum was one of my favorite songs too.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
Written by Mike Nesmith of the Monkees.
How about that? I think Mike is actually underappreciated.
Yeah,
you know, because of all the things I've learned about Mike. Yeah, he seems to be a pretty solid guy right behind the scenes, pushing on things to go, you know, for especially his own career, but the Monkees' career as well as the whole music thing. You know, the other aspect of another album or song that I absolutely love, and I love the way it's put together, is All of My Love by Led Zeppelin off In Through the Outdoors. And Led Zeppelin being a guitar band, so supposedly, right? And most people go Zeppelin 4, Zeppelin 1, so forth. My favorite record actually is In Through the Outdoors. And it's because of the orchestration. It's because of the maturity that they have arrived through all the other records that became this record. And All of My Love has a personal message, of course, Robert and his son, but the orchestration of nylon guitar, string sections composed by John Paul Jones, and that nice laid back drum that John puts in. All those things would just seamlessly perfect. And I really do believe that happened because they were so good together. And that's why when John passes, they just went, it's over. We just simply we'll be a different band if we put someone else there, right?
Yeah,
Colton, you got something now?
All right, I thought of 2 of them that I think I would go. I would say I'd start at the beginning of my world, probably Rush 2112. Just listen to that start to finish. I love anything you listen to start to finish. And then I'll go with the Chris Whitley album called Dirt Floor. Okay. That's probably it was him in a barn by himself. Literally with he's a dobro player or a national player.
Right.
So it's very raw. It's very, torture poet, and it's very almost dry. I mean, it's almost like, but it's so beautiful to listen to everything and its kind of intricacies of how he played and stuff like that.
That's great. Yeah. Sometimes it is that honesty, just that simple. Have you guys seen that Bruce Springsteen biopic that was out?
I haven't yet, but it's definitely on my watch list.
Jay, have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, no.
Okay, so I went to see it, and I'm not a Springsteen fan, just so you know. I love the movie. I thought it really showed that period of time when he's now recognized before MTV blew him up, the USA and all that crap, he had Born to, Run and all this. When Nebraska hit, this is what the movie was about. And why did Nebraska became the record? And they told that story fantastically. And it made me appreciate songwriting in a new way.
I'll have to look it up. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Anybody who's into songwriting should check it out. Even if you're not a Bruce fan, because this, the funny thing is, after I saw the movie, I came back and of course, listened to Nebraska. The movie's better than the record.
There you go.
And that's, it is what it is, folks. Yeah. And that's not a knock on Bruce. It's just they did a wonderful emotional content ties to the audience the way they presented how Bruce was. Where the record
shows you the power of storytelling.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you both so much. And of course,
Jeff.
Ned, who's gone, right?
That was fun, yes.
Yeah, I think this is
Enjoyed
fantastic. Like I said, I want to influence and inspire many generations after us. Hopefully that the words that we're able to share in the intentions and the thoughts will help other people to be inspired and go into an artistic direction in music, in songwriting.
Feed your soul. It will for the rest of your life.
Follow your dreams, feed your soul. That's good.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone,
Thanks,
for
Jeff.
tuning in.
Appreciate everything.
Yeah. And don't forget, like and subscribe. Art of Mastery, the
Definitely
13th
do.
Node podcast. This will air on redpills.tv on Sunday. We're streaming live now on multiple platforms. So once this is shot, they'll see it again. And I'll have both of you back, and we'll do another one on producing, and we'll do another one on other soundscape. I think, there's a wealth of knowledge from both of you gentlemen, as well as Ned, that everybody else can benefit from.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that glass guitar. I gotta.
If you Google it, if you go to YouTube and listen.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to a bunch of.
Yeah,
both of you
I'll
guys,
say this.
Cole and Ned both. I'm gonna follow up a little more.
First time
done it sooner.
Well, the thing about Ned is that,
that's why we're here.
Right, exactly. And the thing is, I thought I was a guitar head because I knew almost everybody who's not everybody. And then there's people that you just heard regionally. I saw his video on YouTube and I just went, what the hell is he doing?
Yeah.
That's the first thought. Second, third time viewing, I just went, man, this guy's breaking grounds similar to finger tapping. Not saying that it's doing that, but he's doing something that's uniquely different.
Well,
so I messaged him. I go, dude, you're fantastic. What you're going for. I wish you all the best and so forth. And when you know it, about 4 months later, I get an email. And he goes, hey, I'm moving to Houston. You want to hang?
Right.
I'm like, what? Right. And that's how Ned and I became friends.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good times.
Small world, right?
Yeah,
for sure.
Right. Happy holidays, everyone.
Cheers,
we'll see
guys.
you soon.
Hey, Jay, one other side note. My band back in Houston did open up for Cheap Trick there.
Did you?
For a few times. And I got to tell you, his monitor set, I'm the singer, and it was before I had in-ears, and the monitor setup that he had, my God. I could hear everything. I was like, oh, this is what it sounds like to hear yourself in monitors.
Yeah, well, Robin's one of my favorite singers. I mean, I think he's just fabulous. He's underrated and fabulous. And when you speak about monitors, I don't know how long ago you would open with them, but when Bunny was playing, Bunny never had drum monitors.
Yeah.
He never had drum. He had a little Fender amp that he could turn Rick's guitar on if he needed it. And he knew if I made a mistake out in the front of house, he knew it.
How funny!
But he never had drum monitors. He's
That's
only
crazy.
person ever, most of these guys come out and give me more kick in the monitor, but he had never had any of them. So.
Wow!
And he heard everything.
Yeah. And you know what? Bunny Carlos is underrated, underappreciated as a drummer in a part of a great band.
Well, they all are. I think I tell you what,
they are. Yeah.
I used to solo Rick's guitar. And he'd be up there throwing picks and do all kinds of shit. It sounded fabulous. I mean, the notes were like right on.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, no doubt. That's why I said, when I saw them at the 79, 80, 81 spot, it greatly influenced me in regards to how to give a great show, how to have energy at different type of songs, right? Even at a ballad, you still have to keep it up. right? And then the other thing is, same thing Ace Frehley said. People watch with their eyes. They listen with their eyes when you do a show. So if you're not really bringing it, people will perceive you're having an off night.
Yeah.
You know, regardless how great you played on your instrument, you know. So those were big takeaways for me once I saw it. Of course, you know, Rick doing his thing. It just never ceased to amaze me how much energy that man can bring to the table. Same thing with Pete Townsend. I saw Pete and I was like, this man's 39 years old at the time of their first final, you know, farewell. He was doing things on stage and jumping around more than guys half his age, easily. And that day inspired me to say, you can never go on stage and just mail it in, phone it in, stand there. Bring it.
Right. You got to bring it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Good day, everyone.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
holidays.
Yep.
Take
And
care.
we'll see you on the next 13th Note, Art of Mastery.
Nice to meet you, Jay. See you, Jeff.
You too, Cole. Bye-bye.
Take care.